We can all be extremely proud of what our men and women achieved at this year's Dakar, but Janelle and the Toyota guys weren't the only ones flying the South African flag in South America. Not far from Hall Speed's facilities near Kailami, another team also packed and shipped no less than 3 race cars to Buenos Aires. We are, of course, talking about the guys from the Pro Nissan Dakar team based at Redline Motorsport, also in Midrand. We've got Terence Marsh, team principal of Redline, and of course also a regular face on the South African local off-road scene. The driver, Johan van Staden, and your navigator, Mark Lawrenson, who drove one of the 3 cars. So guys, welcome.
Thank you.
I think, Terence, if we can start with you, just give us a bit of background on the region racing setup in South Africa that you guys are obviously very much involved with.
Honest, probably about 2 years ago, we had an opportunity where we felt that we wanted to do Dakar and we wanted to go to Dakar. We traveled around the world and were quite disillusioned with what was being built, so and what was available to us. So we decided at the end of the day that we would rather do it within South Africa ourselves. So we designed and developed a car which was to go to Dakar. The objective was to try and go probably into 2016. But during the course of the last 12 months, and I think with 2 years of testing, and we have a customer in Johan and another German customer, Jürgen Schroeder, decided that they wanted to go in 2015 and put us in the pressure basically to go, and that's what they wanted to do, and that's how we ended up going to Dakar in 2015.
So Johan, I've got to ask you, as a driver, was it always a dream that you grew up with, and did you always have this vision in your head that I want to go to Dakar one day?
Yes, the one aspiration, like climbing Mount Everest for a mountaineer, that you sit as an off-road racer and you say to yourself, but what is the ultimate challenge? Winning a championship that I've done, winning regional championships that I've done, but the ultimate one is a Dakar, just to finish it the first time and then start being competitive in it.
And before we get to what it was actually like once you arrived there, Mike, if I can ask you your perception before the time, did you know it was going to be as tough?
Well, we've been there before. We went in 2013 and we rolled in 2013, which was a huge disappointment. So we had an idea what it was about, and we were slightly more prepared this time, but it's still a daunting challenge.
Terence, back to you. You said that you took 3 cars. Johan and Mike were the occupants of one of those 3 cars. I mean, who were the other guys and why?
The second car was driven by a German customer, a guy called Jürgen Schroeder, who teamed up with his son, Daniel Schroeder. Jürgen had done 5 Dakars as a navigator, 1 in a truck and 4 with Alfie Cox. So he always had an objective of driving it. So we've been preparing for that. The third car, when we got closer to Dakar, one of the things we as businessmen, we needed to get economies of scale, and with the limited budgets and resources we had, it just made sense to try and put on a third car and try and stretch everything that we had a little bit further. And the third car was taken up by a Portuguese guy, Ricardo dos Santos, who was an Mini X-Ray driver. So yeah, that was an interesting perspective put onto it at the end.
And to get back to you guys inside the car, how different is it going to Dakar than doing our own championship? I mean, besides it being tougher and longer, just give us a bit of insight. What goes on inside the car once you're there?
Look, it's much different. The terrain varies so much, altitude. Then it's sea level, then at 4,400 meters. The navigation is quite different because of no road book that gives you point A to point B instructions, turning left at 450 meters. You have waypoint instructions with compass bearings. So the navigator has to be wide awake. So the cockpit is quite busy compared to a South African race that you're busy for 6-7 hours, but everything is detailed into a road book, where here you're on your own. If you get lost properly. So it's quite a busy cockpit and fun at most of the times, because you get to see a lot of different scenery and experience different terrain in one day.
I can imagine it's quite different and daunting. Terence, just another question to you. We've just heard from the Toyota guys. They were obviously fighting in the sharp end of the field, going for victory and fighting for podium positions. You guys obviously had a different mindset. I mean, what were your objectives compared to theirs?
I think to simplify it, we'd never been out of Southern Africa with our race car. So we had some new ground we had to cover there. We had limited resources. I think the bigger teams are running anywhere between 5 and 6 guys per race car from a technician's point of view. We had 3 per car, and on one of the Portuguese car, we had 2. So we had limited resources. We had
those guys had to work hard.
Yeah. So I mean, we had to. Our strategy was all about bringing the car to the finish, and I think the guys and Johan in particular just stayed completely with the strategy throughout. When you have limited resources and you have limited budgets, you really have to look after your car. You have to man manage the process throughout. So that really was our strategy, and we took it day by day. We had 7 different nationalities in the team. We had people that never met each other before. We had people come together at the Dakar with only one objective, and that was beating the Dakar.
But speaking of that mindset that you just described, Johan, your mindset in the car while driving, obviously you can't go flat out. And after what happened to you guys last year, I assume your goal was to definitely finish and reach the end. How do you approach it every day, every stage? I mean, it's quite you got to prepare your mind and have the right mindset to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think it, Dakar is not just physical, not mechanically demanding, but it's mentally demanding. So as a race driver, we call it red mist. If the helmet comes on, you want to race, you see the dust, you want to pass the guy, that's not allowed. So that's where he comes in. We have to calm down, but you have to compose yourself.
And Johan, how do you calm him? Oh, Mike, sorry. How do you calm him down?
It's difficult. It takes more than one instruction. And no, what we do is we discuss before the stage. We say, what are we going to do? Okay, let the race come to us. We're not going to push anything. And that's how we've raced. I've been racing with Johan for 3 years now. And every race we say, let the race come to us. And it often does. It often pans out that way. And he says I get a little bit agitated in the car when he's doing things that I don't want him to do. But I don't feel that.
Okay, well, I would like to get to a little bit behind the scenes stories of inside the car and in the bivouac, but just give us a roundup of exactly where did you finish the race and how did it end up?
Well, I said before the race, look, there are 30 seated drivers that are world-class professional drivers. And our strategy was to finish the race. That was our strategy. Because of the disappointment from 2 years ago, the disappointment, I cannot describe the disappointment, how disappointing it is not to finish the race. So our strategy was to finish.
The disappointment was from not finishing.
From rolling and crashing out and coming home with your tail between your legs.
Okay. So you had to make up for it this time.
Absolutely. And I said, if we came 31st, because remember they're 30 seated drivers, I will feel we won the race. So I feel we won the race.
Oh, fantastic. Guys, I'll leave this one open to all 3 of you. Obviously, a lot of things must have happened. I mean, you guys spend, what, 50, 60 hours in the car together, if not more, doing 8,000, 9,000 kilometers. You pretty much did the same mileage in a different car on a similar route, but not the race route. And then every night you guys will all meet up in the bivouac. What happened? What really goes on behind the scenes? I mean, where and how do people sleep? What goes on? Give us something that people don't see when they watch the show on television.
Yeah, I think, it was my 4th one from an operational point of view. This one really in the thick of things. And it's amazing, as I said, 7 nationalities, you had 7 different cultures, you've got language barriers. In the first couple of days, people have to find their feet. You kind of struggle up to rest day, but with the guys doing the job that they were doing, it really was building more optimism and building energy. But from a sleeping perspective, I mean, the guys sleep anyway. You know, the way we were running with our resources and our budgets, you grab a sleeping bag.
Speaking of budget, I assume it's a very different setup where you guys sleep compared to the middies with their multi-million-dollar budgets. I mean, I'm sure they've got people looking after them, taking them to hotels. Very different with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We call it the moving hotel. It's a container built by Pro Dakar that houses 8 beds, and I've got a top bunk, he's got a bottom bunk with a crate at the bottom where the stuff fits in, a loose sleeping bag and a pillow. For that 3 hours of sleep that you do get, it's very comfortable.
So just tell me, to end it off, you guys are obviously very good friends. Good enough that after this you'd want to go back and do it all again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much, and huge respect from all South Africans. And that is it for this week. Tune in next week when we continue to chat about the 2015 Dakar. In studio, we will have the South African bike and quad riders. Until then, cheers from us here in the studio.